You can be rejected by one woman and still be desired by 10 others. You can be invisible in one environment and yet be the most striking presence in the next. You can spend your whole life trying and still only be scratching the surface of a game you never truly understood. This is the point where many men break down and few awaken. Not because they failed, but because they finally realized they were operating on autopilot. Repeating advice from friends who don't know what they're doing. Copying ready-made phrases from generic videos. Trying to apply tips like someone throwing darts in the dark, hoping to hit the center of a target they never saw. And all this thinking the problem was with them. You grew up hearing that you needed to be handsome, strong, successful, funny, confident, intelligent, sensitive, but not too much, and at the same time mysterious but approachable. It's a trap, a cycle of contradictory demands that sucks away your authenticity and replaces it with a caricatured character you no longer recognize in the mirror. But here's the first truth that will set you free. It's not about being perfect. It's about being trained. Bruce Wayne didn't become Batman because of the money, the cape, or the technology. He became the most feared man in Gotham because he went through hell. Because he was molded by the Shadow Clan. Because he had a system. And perhaps this is the most uncomfortable part to hear. You're still struggling in your love life, not because you lack beauty or status, but because you lack practice. You think you're in the game, but you've never seen the board. You confuse movement with progress, intensity with strategy, and neediness with connection. And this comes at too high a price. You strive, you give, you try, but you remain plan B. You remain invisible. You remain trapped in the limbo where the too nice wait to be noticed while being discarded without even understanding why. There is a way out of this, but it's not easy. And it's not for everyone. Just as the Shadow Clan only accepted those who were ready to die and be reborn, this content is not for those seeking easy tricks. It's for those who are ready to look inward, face their own ghosts, and rebuild from scratch a new kind of man. Magnetic, calm, strategic. A man who doesn't beg for attention, but who becomes impossible to ignore. And not by shouting, but by knowing when to be silent. A man who doesn't shy away from desire, but provokes it with his presence. A man who doesn't need a stage, because he transforms any place into dominated territory. This video is an invitation to that, to the construction of a new mentality, and the demolition of all the beliefs you inherited without realizing it. And you need to know from the start, it won't be comfortable. It will hurt, because we're going to rip off the mask of passivity, of neediness disguised as romanticism, of chatter disguised as charm. We're going to remove every layer of insecurity disguised as respect. We're going to show you without mercy how you've been killing your own attraction through excessive kindness, excessive words, and lack of presence. And yes, we're going to give you tools. Tools as simple as they are dangerous, but only if they are used with intention. Because when a man is trained to seduce, he needs something even stronger than desire. He needs character. And that's where the silent trap that engulfs most men lies. You're not stupid, nor weak, but you've been exposed to a world of unstructured stimuli. You grew up hearing that you needed to be natural. Be yourself, let it happen, as if seduction were an innate talent or a twist of fate. So you tried on your own. You watched a video here, another there. You tried to apply a technique you saw on a post. You heard a tip from a smooth-talking friend. You tried to copy a guy who apparently attracts women effortlessly. And you failed. And then you failed again. And you started to doubt yourself. To think that maybe you weren't born for this. That maybe you're ugly, shy, or simply invisible. The brutality of this dynamic is that it blames you for the failure of a system that never existed. You didn't have a method. You had fragments, homeopathic doses of hope thrown randomly on top of an insecurity you didn't even know how to name. And then when it didn't work, you assumed the weight of the mistake as if it were an identity failure. It's as if there's something fundamentally wrong with you. It destroys you from the inside. And the more you seek answers in shallow sources, the deeper you sink. Because what's missing isn't information. What's missing is direction. There's a lack of architecture. A roadmap, a real training ground, a system. Imagine this. You want to become a chess master. But instead of studying moves, studying the masters, understanding openings and defenses, you grab a board, place the pieces randomly, and start playing against the clock. Without strategy. Just with willpower. And with each defeat, you don't blame your lack of preparation, you blame yourself. That's what you've been doing with your love life. You're not bad, you're poorly trained. And here's one of the biggest contradictions in our culture. Society demands that you be a man of value, that you know how to conquer, that you have presence, that you dominate the environment, but at the same time, it gives you a ridiculous emotional education, exposes you to romanticized films, makes you believe that love is a beautiful accident that happens to the pure of heart. It's not. Love is an art. And seduction is its grammar. If you don't speak this language, you will live eternally as a tourist in the territory of connection. Asking for help, stumbling, being misunderstood, being discarded. And the worst part, thinking it's your fault. Nietzsche's philosophy already said that he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. But you don't even know your why. You are passively consuming content, like someone trying to fill an existential void with pretty phrases. But that doesn't get you anywhere, because it's not the content that transforms, it's the system behind it. The training, the clan of shadows, the path of the warrior who trades chaos for strategy. Stop being a passenger and take the wheel of your own narrative. Look around you. How many men do you know who live in fear of expressing themselves? Who walk on eggshells when talking to women? Who hide behind jokes, kindness, or cowardly silence? How many live in the shadows, trying to be noticed through excessive kindness, not magnetism? You see this every day. Men with wasted potential. And it's not because they're bad, it's because they've never been guided, never been trained, never been subjected to the necessary furnace to become dangerous. Yes, dangerous. Because a man who understands the dynamics of seduction, who understands his body language, who masters the tension of silence and the power of listening, that man becomes a threat to the system. He stops asking for validation, he stops chasing, he starts attracting, he starts dictating the pace. And that's when the game changes. Because seduction isn't about pleasing, it's about altering the perception of value. And to alter that, you first need to alter how you see yourself. Your body speaks before your mouth. Your energy enters the environment before your physical presence. And when you enter unprepared, you carry the invisible weight of doubt, the fear of rejection, the desire to please, and all of this is perceived even before your first word. You are not rejected because you are less. You are rejected because you transmit scarcity, because you transmit hesitation, because you transmit a lack of direction. And the lack of direction is the greatest repellent of human nature. Every human being is attracted to those who know where they are going. You've seen this before. That friend of yours who isn't so good looking but dominates the room. That guy who arrives and, without apparent effort, is with the most beautiful woman at the party. He's not a genius. He's not a mutant. He has direction. Even if intuitive, he has a system. He knows how to behave. He transmits security. He knows how to play the game. But, and this is crucial, you can't copy this guy. Because his system was born from his experiences. And if you try to imitate him, you'll seem like a poorly rehearsed character. You need to build your own system. Based on your personality, your tone of voice, your body, your gaze, your values. A system that transforms your vulnerabilities into weapons and your traumas into strategies. A system that allows you to be yourself, but in your most dangerous version. More intense, more irresistible. And here's another powerful contradiction. The more you try to please, the less desirable you become. Because desire is born from contrast, tension, doubt. A man who shows himself completely, right away, without mystery, without timing, without control, he doesn't attract. He gives himself away. And whoever gives themselves away uninvited becomes predictable. And the predictable, my friend, is disposable. This is where the engineering of the new man comes in. The trained man. The man who studies body language, who understands the psychology behind connection, who masters the power of silence, who knows where to touch and when to be silent. This man doesn't need to sell himself. He imposes himself with presence. He alters atmospheres with the way he enters a room. He doesn't need to be the most handsome, the richest, the tallest. He needs to be the most present. And presence is built, it's trained, It's honed in silence when no one is watching. Do you want to know why nothing has worked until now? Because you've tried applying pieces of a puzzle you've never seen assembled. You've seen isolated tips, catchy phrases, scattered tactics, but you've never had the systemic vision. You've never seen the complete structure. And without structure, there is no mastery. Without mastery, you are condemned to randomness, to waiting, to frustration. But today, now this cycle ends, because from this point on, you will understand the map. You will begin to rebuild your presence, your language, your strategy, and all of this begins from within. With brutal truth, you don't need more tips, you need a system. You need to stop being a passenger on your own journey and take the helm with composure, focus, and intention. And like any warrior trained in the shadows, you need to master what comes before words, what comes before praise, before invitation, before the message. You need to master your presence, because it's what will open doors that your voice alone could never open. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Most men who fail at seduction are worried about what they're going to say. But what you say represents less than 10% of the real impact of an interaction. The rest is nonverbal language. And this is where the brutality comes in. You can spend your whole life honing your vocabulary, reading ready-made phrases, practicing arguments, and remain invisible. Because your body language continues to say that you're afraid. Your voice continues to betray your insecurity. Your eyes continue to ask for approval. And women perceive this, without thinking, without judging. They simply feel it. And they follow their instinct. Let's start with the body. Your body is a continuous transmitter of information. Before you even open your mouth, it has already announced your worth. If you enter hunched over with short steps, avoiding eye contact, compulsively fiddling with your cell phone, you've already sent the message, "Don't look at me. I don't belong here." Now imagine the opposite. Shoulders back, slow and firm steps, an observant gaze that sweeps the room without haste, cell phone in your pocket, hands visible, shallow breathing. This says, "I am exactly where I should be." Is it simple? Yes, but it's not easy, because your body expresses what your mind believes. If your mind doubts you, your body betrays you. And that's why technique without inner transformation doesn't sustain presence. You can force the posture for 5 minutes, but if internally you remain small, hesitant, the body reverts to its self-defense pattern. Therefore, the first step to magnetic presence is not physical control, it's mental training. And here comes the first real practice. Start walking slower everywhere you go. It's not just a matter of elegance, it's about mastering space. Hurried men always seem afraid of being noticed. Men who walk with strategic slowness say with their bodies, "Time works for me." At parties, in bars, on the street, anywhere. Slow down. Not for aesthetic effect, but for psychological engineering. The mind follows the rhythm of the body. And by slowing down the body's rhythm, you send subtle commands to your own psyche. I am enough. Now let's talk about the voice. The male voice is a weapon, but almost no one knows how to use it. Most men speak too fast, too loudly, trying to compensate for an insecurity they carry inside. You don't need to rush. A confident man's voice is measured, deep, and articulate. It's not a forced tone. It's the natural sound of someone who isn't trying to convince. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Nature gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we might listen more and speak less." This has never been truer. Speaking less with more intention creates authority, and authority creates desire. Try this. On your next date, speak more softly, slower, with pauses. When you make a joke, hold eye contact after delivering it. Don't laugh first. Wait for her reaction. When she speaks, listen as if every word has value. And when you respond, speak as if you choose each syllable carefully. Your voice can become an emotional anchor. It can be a soundtrack that the woman carries mentally after you leave. But this only happens when it comes loaded with inner truth. And now, the element most neglected by amateurs, silence. Silence is the space where desire is born. Most men destroy any sexual tension because they are afraid of silence. So they fill it with useless words, out-of-place jokes, hasty confessions. They don't know how to hold the void. But the void, my friend, is where mystery resides, and mystery is the foundation of desire. Learn to use silence. Don't respond immediately. Don't explain yourself. When she teases you, hold your gaze. When she compliments you, smile slightly and change the subject. create tension. The man who masters silence creates a bubble of presence, a zone of parallel reality where everything seems denser, more intimate, more real. And if you think this is a game manipulation, think again. This is art. It's emotional engineering. It's what differentiates an ordinary man from a man who is remembered. Because the man who talks too much dissolves into memory. But the man who knows how to use silence becomes an emotional reference point. A point of tension in a woman's mind that she can't ignore. And here comes one of the biggest contradictions that nobody told you. What makes you desirable is not how much you show, but how much you retain. Desire is born from absence, from scarcity, from the almost. If you give everything away at once, if you reveal yourself like an open book, you kill the mystery. And mystery is the fuel of the female imagination. Look, we're not talking about pretending. We're talking about calibration, about knowing how to dose, about understanding that a man who values himself chooses what he reveals. He is selective. He doesn't expose himself like an emotional beggar in exchange for affection. He positions himself as a source of value. And value isn't begged for. Value is manifested. And you manifest this through the body you inhabit, the voice you speak, and the silence you sustain. The sum of these three elements creates your magnetic presence. And this presence cannot be taught, it needs to be trained. It doesn't come from books, but from practice, from conscious choices, from daily exercises. Do you want to change? Start now. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, feel your body. Where is the tension? In your shoulders, in your jaw, in your chest? Release it. Correct your posture. Lift your chin, affirm your spine. Now, open your eyes and observe the environment around you without haste. You are present. That is presence. Do this every day, everywhere. And slowly, the world will begin to react differently to you. People will begin to listen to you more attentively. Women will begin to notice you with more curiosity, because your body will have stopped asking for permission and started to assert its existence. And when this presence is consolidated, you will no longer need to chase after it. You will become the gravitational center of the environment, the point of reference, the element that alters the atmosphere with its mere entrance. But remember, presence is not destiny, it's the foundation. The next step, now that you truly exist in the world, is to know how to provoke desire in a strategic, profound, and uncontrollable way. You've spent the last few minutes immersed in a truth that 99% of men will never accept. Not because they can't, but because they lack the courage to face what it demands. Real seduction isn't gentle. It isn't obvious. It doesn't apologize. It's a silent art crafted behind the scenes of language, in the subtext of gestures, in the gaze that says everything while the mouth says nothing. This is where the weak stumble, because they want formulas, scripts, step-by-step instructions. But desire doesn't respond to formulas. Desire is primitive, chaotic, unpredictable. It's triggered not by what you offer, but by what you withhold. Not by what you show, but by what you suggest. And that's why everything you've heard so far is just the surface, a glimpse of what few have access to. There's a layer beneath it, a hidden code, an unwritten, or rather forbidden manual. The forbidden manual isn't an ordinary audiobook. It's a catalyst. A sweet poison you ingest with every word and which begins to reprogram your social instinct. It rips you from the nice guy trying to get it right mentality and throws you straight into the archetype of the man who doesn't need to be accepted because he is felt. He doesn't force desire, he becomes the trigger of desire. And make no mistake, this has nothing to do with manipulation or deception. It has to do with understanding the real laws of the game. The ones that society pretends don't exist. The ones that movies censor, that coaches ignore, and that conventional manuals are afraid to write. We're talking about strategic tension, calculated absence, silences that hypnotize, words that create double meanings, that plant images that stick in her mind like an emotional addiction. A game so precise, it seems like witchcraft. You think this is an exaggeration? Then remember the last time you were ignored by someone you were attracted to. Remember the bitter taste of indifference, the knot in your stomach when you saw her smiling at another guy. Remember your brain trying to rationalize what went wrong, without realizing that the problem wasn't your appearance, nor your conversation. It was your vibe. Your lack of enigma. Your predictability. You didn't create tension. You didn't create contrast. You were forgettable. But the good news is that this can change drastically and quickly. The Forbidden Manual is built for this, to hack the female and social mind in 60 seconds. Because that's the time you have to make your presence felt, to become a fixed memory, an obsession in the making. That's the time she needs to decide emotionally if you're the guy she'll ignore or the guy who will occupy her thoughts in the shower, in bed, in the silence of the early morning. But this manual isn't for everyone. It's not for those who still want to please everyone. It's not for the guy who prefers comfort to impact. It's for those who understand that seduction is a subtle war, where the winner is the one who controls the emotional field. And whoever controls the emotional field commands the game. You've gone through 3 chapters that delivered psychological strategies, behavioral rituals, and truths that put you ahead of 90% of men. But if you want to become part of the 1% who master the hidden art, who seduce without visible effort, who activate desire without seeming needy, who create presence with silence, then the next step is inevitable. You need a system, an arsenal, a map that takes you from amateur to archetype, and the Forbidden Manual is that map. It's not just an audiobook, it's an initiation. And if you feel deep down that this is your time, then click the first link in the description. Because if there's a portal to a new identity, more magnetic, more desirable, more strategic, it starts here.